Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. And up first, we've got hazardous weather graphic, and that's showing warning area now there for the Upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country. In fact, it's a little more delineated than what the chart's showing there. It's a winter storm warning for heavy snow that kicks into effect 7 p.m. on tomorrow, 7 p.m. Sunday, until 7 a.m. Tuesday. So kind of a period there, looking for a total across the time frame of 3 to 5 inches with up to 8 inches falling. And it's along a line from, along the Alaska Highway, and then also southeast of a line from Delta Junction to Eagle. And again, that's out for 7 p.m. Sunday, tomorrow evening, until 7 a.m. Tuesday morning. And to the south there, you can see in the Alaska Range, this is a continuation of the wind advisory that's been out. That was out today. And that's out until 4 p.m. Sunday for winds gusting 30 to 40 miles an hour, or for 30 to 40 mile an hour winds gust 60 miles an hour at times, especially through the passes west of the Toe Cutoff. And then winds should start to come down tomorrow, late tomorrow afternoon and evening. And then farther to the west there, a continuation of the snow advisory. And you can see for the Galena area, the greater Haisley area, as well as Caltag, Ruby, and Nulato, and looking for 1 to 3 additional inches for a total of possibly up to 5 in some areas. And that's out until, midnight tonight. And moving on from there, no other watches, warnings, or advisories. Those 3 zones there about cover it all, even out over the Bering Sea, not bad. And for the satellite imagery, you can see the weakening frontal boundary or cloud band associated with the disturbance coming in, arcing across the Bering Strait there, and then southeastward into the North Gulf Coast, across south central Alaska, and some high clouds streaming into the northern panhandle now. Otherwise, it was another basically dry day with areas of sunshine. And then the increase in the higher clouds along, up toward Glacier Bay westward out to definitely Yakutat. Main low center there's just south of the Pribilofs, slowly weakening, slowly moving as well. That's sending some bands of showers and breezy wind conditions, central Aleutians, where the wind's direction is more of a north-northwest direction, then turns west-southwest, but nothing strong across the Alaska Peninsula. And to the eastern Aleutian areas, rainfall not particularly heavy out that way, just 7/100ths of an inch at St. George Island in the last 12 hours. Cold Bay just 2/100ths of an inch, exception being Cape Newenham, where they had about 4/10ths of an inch during the same time frame there. St. Mary's about 1,500, so really not much of a big precipitation producer there, and all in the form of rain. And up, except for Indian Mountain up in the interior there, they had about maybe an inch of snow in the last 12 hours. Otherwise, other locations up there under the cloud shield picked up maybe a half inch or less. Some areas didn't have anything at all. And Seward also picked about 1/4 of an inch of precipitation today in the form of rain there. And winds a little on the brisk side, gust 40 miles an hour there just south of Prince William Sound. They're just south of the entrance into the sound. And also Augustine Island seeing winds gusting to 53 miles an hour, 40 to 45 mile an hour wind gusts to Barren Islands. Otherwise, wind's not too bad. Again, pretty light over the panhandle, still in the influence of high pressure over western Canada that's slowly weakening, and the whole pattern shifting eastward. In fact, the low out there over the Bering Sea south of the Pribilofs, that's going to be tracking slowly eastward and will be over about 48, or by, Monday afternoon. Should be right over the Kenai Peninsula area or into western Prince William Sound, and that'll pull colder air back down to the south. So pretty good chance of snow even into south central Alaska with that, but that's a couple days out yet. Getting ahead of myself. Otherwise on the chart today, very weak system there, southeast of the Kenai Peninsula, but strong enough, tight enough gradient there, as I mentioned, to kick the winds up from Kamishak Bay areas of the North Gulf Coast, gusts 40, 45 miles an hour. And again, the strongest wind gust was there at Augustine Island, or actually the Augustine Island, 53 miles an hour. Barren Islands had 44 mile an hour wind gusts, and also 53 mile an hour wind gusts at over the Anchorage hillside, the southern part of the hillside, southeast Anchorage, just south of Rabbit Creek, where Rabbit Creek was seeing gusts 45 miles an hour. This location, 53 miles an hour. And otherwise about 30 to 35 through Turnagain Arm. And of course, that downsloping wind kept it basically dry here, Cook Inlet into the Madawaska-Susitna Valley. And then you pick up the moisture there, North Gulf Coast, dry over the eastern interior, and then some areas of snow. Again, light snow. So I mentioned Indian Mountain picked up about an inch today, otherwise half inch or less to nothing, like over most of the Seward Peninsula, dry for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. Weakening low pressure there in the Bering Sea with areas of light rain, fog, drizzle, showers, cloudy skies. Wind's not a problem at all out that way. And wind's coming down along the southwest coast after those stronger gusts there earlier today. And north-northeast winds, St. Lawrence Island, Gamble today, about 35 miles an hour. And not much in the way of precipitation up there, and temperatures in the upper 30s. So if it did fall, it'd probably be either a mixture of rain or snow or just plain rain. Otherwise, high pressure over the far western Bering Sea and the Aleutians, clearing, shimmying at too with light winds. That extends all the way up into the Russian Far East. For tonight, that system just weakens into a trough and slides eastward, and that brings a chance of rain to the coastal areas of the Panhandle late tonight or by tomorrow morning, with a general increase in the clouds over the remainder of the Panhandle, and periods of rain and breezy for the North Gulf Coast, southern Kenai Peninsula, working into Prince William Sound, and chance of snow into the southeastern or the eastern portions of the Copper River Basin. Just some light snow showers developing along the eastern Alaska Range, otherwise dry for the Tanana Valley. And band of snow, again, light snow continues over the western interior, and then kind of a trough dropping down on the eastern side of that high north of the Arctic coast. That'll bring some periods of light snow into the eastern North Slope on out to the eastern Arctic coast, and that low continues to weaken as it drifts slowly eastward now, south-southwest of Nunivak Island, with some showers along the coast and winds even lighter than what they were, drying out for the eastern Aleutians. High pressure, narrow ridge there, but fairly strong, shifting slowly eastward ahead of the next front, pushing chance of rain into the far western Aleutians toward morning. And for tomorrow, periods of rain out there, shimmying at 2, cutting off around Kiska. High pressure tries to take over the pattern there for the central Aleutians, but still, winds will be light, but still be cloudy with a risk of a few showers in the area for Adak and Atka over to the eastern Aleutians. Really not anything significant out there over the eastern Bering Sea. Chance of rain or snow showers along the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coast on up to St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula, and then increasing wind, gale force winds coming into the Panhandle with rain light in the morning, developing to moderate to heavy at times by afternoon. And that'll extend up along the North Gulf Coast as well. Increasing snow, Copper River Basin. Chance of snow, northern Cook Inlet, Madawaska-Susitna Valley. And then it's on Monday. I'll get ahead of myself there. Otherwise, the North Slope tomorrow looking pretty good. Northern Koyukuk Valley out to the northwest coast. Still some partly cloudy skies, light winds there to the eastern Arctic coast. Risk of a few flurries there over toward Kaktovik and Border Island, otherwise staying fair. And now I'll kick into the day for Monday. That front hangs up over the Aleutians, kind of elongates. Main push is eastward to the south of the area there, so another weak low develops just south of Adak. Chance of rain, light winds though, and high pressure making mostly for light winds. Still some moisture right under the ridge itself, and some rain and snow showers coming down the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta coastline all the way to the Alaska Peninsula. But as that low pulls eastward into Prince William Sound, or actually moves into Prince William Sound, we'll have kind of a start the day with mixed precipitation, northern Cook Inlet, Madawaska-Susitna Valley, but by end of the afternoon, the colder air comes down, looking pretty good for some snow. Temperatures falling just below freezing, say in the Anchorage area. And so that should probably mean some accumulating snow. Definitely accumulating snow there in the warning area for the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country. Again, southeast of a line from Eagle to Delta Junction, and that's up to 5, maybe 8 inches from when the warning kicks in tomorrow night. Otherwise, the Panhandle, gusty winds, maybe up to 50, 55 miles an hour from the south-southwest, even behind the front with the pressure rises. Rain, periods of, heavy at times, North Gulf Coast all the way down toward Dixon Entrance. Lows tonight, single numbers, eastern interior, teens to lower 20s, central interior, then upper 20s to upper 30s, especially as you get out toward the southwest coast, near 40 for the Pribilofs and much of the Aleutians, mid 40s Alaska Peninsula, and mid to upper 20s to upper 30s for the Panhandle, mid-teens for the Copper River Basin. Highs for tomorrow, 25 to 35 or so for the Copper River Basin, in the 30s, Cook Inlet, Matanuska Valley, but southern Kenai Peninsula. You won't see the 50 you saw today at Soldotna, probably more closer to 40 and 44 for Homer, and quite a range here in the Panhandle, lower 30s to upper 40s, and Tanana Valley right around just above the 30-degree mark, and 20s for the Arctic coast, mid-40s, Bering Sea into the southwest interior. Lows Monday morning, about 0 there for the Eastern Brooks Range, Arctic Village in particular, otherwise 10 to 20. Over the interior, and lower 30s, southern Alaska, milder out toward the coastline, followed by highs in the 50s for the southeast coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to flying weather, we've got a zone of IFR there from the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, southwestward across the Brooks Range into the northern Koyukuk and most of the Kobuk Valley, on down southern Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, then down along the Yukon Delta coast, covering Nunivak, St. Matthew, St. George, St. Paul Island, and then marginal VFR down to the central and eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, IFR southern Kodiak Island, and also along the east side of the Kenai Peninsula, and not quite making it into Prince William Sound, marginal VFR there, up into the Coast Range and the Wrangell Mountains, and then some IFR along the western Alaska Range, and some areas of VFR thrown in as well, and marginal VFR along the southeast coast. For the afternoon, solid IFR for the Panhandle, Gulf of Alaska, Yakutat, all of the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak socked in, and also Kamishak Bay, and western Cook Inlet to the eastern slopes of the western Alaska Range, IFR. Marginal VFR, Matanuska, Susitna Valley, could be some VFR zones there from, say, Soldotna, Kenai area, give or take, on up across Anchorage and to Palmer. And otherwise, marginal VFR up to the Alaska Range, some VFR in the Tanana Valley on up toward Eagle, and then also for the North Slope. And for the afternoon, or I'm sorry, for the Monday morning, central interior, VFR with marginal VFR along and north of the Yukon River to the Brooks Range, spilling into the North Slope, but basically VFR from there on out to the Arctic coast. And some IFR there, Kotzebue Sound, Buckland, over to Shishmaref, maybe Deering and Selawik, with IFR also eastern St. Lawrence Island, down along the Yukon Delta coast of Koryuk and all of Nunivak Island, east of the Pribilofs, and the next batch band coming into the western Aleutians there. Kodiak Island, IFR Monday morning, Prince William Sound, southeast interior, 40-mile country, right down to the northern Panhandle, and then down the east side. And for the afternoon, solid IFR, southeast coast, right up Elfin Cove, Yakutat, and then Copper River Basin, IFR. Improving, though, for the North Gulf Coast, becoming VFR for Prince William Sound. Kodiak looking good, VFR. Next ends north into Cook Inlet, but pretty good IFR. Northern Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula there, Turnagain Arm, Knik Arm as well, Matanuska, Susitna Valley, on up into the Tanana Valley, but the Yukon River looks to be, except for Eagle, looks to be VFR all the way out to the Delta, and some IFR for the western Arctic coast, on down toward Kivalina, and then IFR western Aleutian, starting to creep into the central Aleutian areas there in the afternoon. Passes Anatuvik IFR becoming marginal VFR, same trend for Adigan, lowest conditions in the morning, a little better in the afternoon. Lake Clark and Merrill, IFR, mostly lowest conditions eastern approach, same thing for Rainy, IFR. And for windy, south entrance could be IFR, marginal say through the pass, VFR out the north entrance into the valley. And for Isabel, occasionally marginal tomorrow, but Mentasta, say probably IFR most of the day. And for Tanita, VFR to start, early maybe, becoming marginal VFR. Could be marginal the entire day, but looks like a little bit of a downward trend throughout the afternoon Sunday. And for Portage, IFR, Chilcoot and White, starting out VFR, down to IFR in the afternoon. Freezing levels, quite a gradient. That's southwest jet coming up and the warmer air associated with the warm front and the storm system there. And so good gradient building along the Panhandle, Gulf of Alaska, and down mostly east of Kodiak Island, otherwise about 2,000 feet or so out west. And for the icing, considerable moderate rime icing, quite a zone there with all the moisture and warmer air. Chillicothe Strait, North Gulf Coast, pretty solid over the Gulf of Alaska, pushing into the Panhandle. And then a weaker zone of icing with that weaker front way out there to the west, trying to push into the southwest Bering. And the jet stream showing, again, strong southwest jet, 155 knots there across the Alaska Peninsula, and then kind of diverging a little bit and diminishing, 105 knots across the Gulf of Alaska. Northwest, that's 75 to 90 knots for the Panhandle. 9,000 feet, strong winds just east of Kodiak, 55 knots, blows right into the central southeast coast at the same speed, and 3,000-foot winds. You can see the triple point low there developing east of Kodiak Island, and southeast winds 50 knots there ahead of the occluded front, and 40 knotters blowing in toward the Queen Charlotte's, otherwise pretty light over the remainder of interior Alaska. As far as turbulence goes, we've got light to isolated moderate chop, central Alaska range there into the northeast Kuskokwim Valley, North Gulf Coast, moderate turbulence, as well as the Panhandle.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, joined once again by the science liaison of GINA, Eric Stevens. GINA, of course, is the Geographic Information Network of Alaska, based up at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And GINA is all about satellites, and Eric is always here to tell some really cool stuff about satellites. Now, the last time you were here, we talked about how the weather satellites can see clouds and what's under the clouds, but you're telling me that satellites can do a lot more, even protect the general public with aviation safety information.
That's right. There's one particular aspect of satellites we're going to talk about today that might not be immediately obvious, and that is detecting things in the atmosphere that are not clouds, that are not snow, not rain, but rather a hazard that can happen here in Alaska, and that is volcanic ash.
Of course.
When a volcano goes off, puts ash in the air, this is, of course, a hazard to the public if the ash were to fall on the ground in accumulating amounts.
Sure.
Additionally, while the ash is in the air, and this is the more frequent hazard, is it's a hazard to aviation because you cannot fly an airplane into volcanic ash without great risk. Worst case scenario, the ash gets into a jet engine, wrecks the engine, kills the engine, and now you have an airplane flying with no engines. It won't fly for long. So aviators need to avoid that ash. How do you avoid the ash? You have to know where it is by identifying it with a satellite image and perhaps predicting then where the ash will flow with the overall weather patterns. Satellites are so important for identifying when a volcano goes off and then tracking the ash after the volcano injects the ash into the atmosphere.
Now, are you talking about seeing the heat signature or a huge volcanic plume with a cloud that we're used to seeing in the really pretty pictures of any Alaska volcano that's erupted recently, Redoubt, for example? Or are we talking about the really fine details? Because this is polar orbiting satellites, the ones that are very low to the ground, right?
The geostationary satellites can do some detection. The polar orbiters, like you say, they're closer to the Earth. They give the even better view. In answer to your question, I would say all of the above.
Oh, okay.
A heat signature from a volcano going off with all the heat that comes with the eruption, that can be identified in infrared imagery.
Okay.
We've got images from the Kamchatka Peninsula. That's the far eastern part of Russia on the western side of the Bering Sea, loaded with volcanoes.
Right.
You know, Alaska has plenty of volcanoes of its own. We can also be affected when a volcano goes off in Kamchatka, say, and then the weather carries that ash toward Alaska from the west.
Right.
You can see the infrared heat signature, like you say. Also, the ash in the air can be detected by doing some sophisticated channel differencing within the satellite data. You can find the identification of sulfur dioxide, say, that's a component of the volcanic emission, and you can trace this with the satellite imagery. Sometimes volcanoes go off that haven't gone off before, and we're not expecting them to go off. Say if there's no seismometers around a given volcano that hasn't gone off in 100 years, you might not be expecting it to go off in the satellite imagery. Since satellites can be globally comprehensive, that might be the first sign that you have that a volcano in an unexpected area is going off.
So it's a good backup system. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And people are working all the time on automating the interrogation of satellite data by computers to provide a first alert to a human, so the software will say, we think this might be important. Human, go take a closer look. Because the people are still the best way to interrogate the imagery, but the planet's a big place, and we can't be looking everywhere all the time, so the software helps give a first cut. And then in Alaska, there's a special kind of surprise angle where the satellites are helpful, and that is the Katmai eruption of 1912. Huge eruption. There is still somewhat of a moonscape out there in southwest Alaska where all this ash is laying on the ground. And sometimes a strong weather pattern comes along where we have roaring northwest winds that go across the Alaska Peninsula there and can actually pick some of this ash up off the ground. No volcano is going off. This was more than 100 years ago that volcano actually blew. So you're not going to see a heat signature like we were discussing. There will be no seismic signature of a volcano going off. So those data sets, they'll say, oh, no problem. But you can see in some of the satellite imagery this ash, as it's called, resuspended. When the wind comes along, picks it up, the ash can be lofted a few thousand feet in the air just with the wind. And an airplane flying into that plume is exposed to some danger. So we need to track that ash to provide guidance to aviators that you don't want to be flying here at these elevations in this area. We've got some imagery of the resuspension, and you can see the wind blowing strongly from the northwest, picking up the ash and blowing it down to the southeast. And so that's another, perhaps not immediately obvious hazard of volcanic ash. Katmai is the gift that keeps on giving, for sure.
Very good. So we've got satellites that can help us understand the weather from the past and the immediate past. And we talked last time about how that's feeding into the forecast modeling to help improve predictions. But now they're also protecting the general public with aviation-sensitive information and watching volcanoes, whether they're erupting or maybe have erupted in the past, and finding the left-behinds from those volcanic events there. So really impressive stuff. Eric, thanks so much for joining us again today. And you're a gift that keeps on giving from the satellite community, so thanks a lot, and we hope to have you back again soon. Again, Eric Stevens with Gina at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And if you'd like to check out any of the information that Eric has shared with us again today, you can do that very easily by going to www.gina.alaska.edu. I'm meteorologist Dave Snyder, and thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. And now, marine weather around Alaska.
And welcome back. Looking at the sea ice analysis today. Again, heaviest there and all the way down to the coastline from looks like Point Barrow westward, ice all the way over till it becomes pretty solid there toward Kaktovik. But the west side, just some areas of ice right along the coastline. Really wide open though, especially around Wrangel Island and on up into the Arctic Ocean there. And from there, going on to coastal water forecast, gales for the Panhandle along the coast tomorrow, southeast 35 to 40 knots, more easterly there on the north coast, seas running 11 to 13 feet. Small craft advisories for the central and southern inside waters, southeast 30 for Clarence Straits, 5-foot sea, southeast 25 Stevens Passage, southeast 15 for Lynn Canal. Outlook for Monday. West winds 25 knots on the south coast, southwest winds 30 knots on the north coast, with seas up to 18 feet. Small craft advisories for the for all of the inside waters there from Dixon Entrance right on up into Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay. Mostly south, 25 knots sustained, seas 5 to 7 feet. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, northeast winds 20 knots, seas at about 4 feet, with gale warnings for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Easterlies 35 knots, just under the gale force threshold there for the western North Gulf Coast at 30 knots from the east, 12-foot seas. Barren Islands, northeast 30, small craft advisories, Kamishak Bay and southern Cook Inlet for north-northeast winds at 25 knots and seas up to 9 feet. Northern Cook Inlet, northerlies at 20 knots with 5-foot seas. And then for the day on Monday, northern Cook Inlet, west winds 10 knots, seas 3 feet, and much stronger though, 30-knot winds out of the west for southern Cook Inlet with 7-foot seas. And for Kamishak Bay, westerlies 40 knots, seas 11 feet, westerlies 40 knots for the Barren Islands and all of the North Gulf Coast with 15 to 20-foot seas. Prince William Sound, though, northwest at 15, the low center kind of right over the area there, looking at lighter winds and slighter seas. Kodiak Island, north-northeast tomorrow, 20 knots, 7-foot seas, and south side of the Alaska Peninsula, Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, light easterlies at 10, Bering Sea side southwest 15, right up into Bristol Bay with 4-foot seas. And Bristol Bay on Monday, west winds 25 knots, small craft advisories there. The Alaska Peninsula, westerlies 20 knots with 5 to 9-foot seas. Castle Cape to Sitkinak and Shelikof Strait, west 25, and east side of Kodiak, westerlies 30 knots, higher gusts out of the bays with seas at 13 feet. On Alaska Island, Unimak Island, or both, The eastern Aleutians, northwest 10 to 15 knots, seas 5 to 8 feet, and northwest 15 8 AKwx with 5 to 8 foot seas. And then small craft advisories with that next front pushing into the western Aleutians. That'll be west of Kiska, mostly for Shimei and Attu, southeast 25, 12-foot seas. Those fall back to 20 knots there from Shimei all the way eastward to Amchitka. 8 AKwx, light winds, southeast at 10. And variable winds at 10 for Unmak Island, Unalaska Island west at 15. Southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, south winds 15 knots, Yukon Delta coast, northeast 15, north 20 for both St. Matthew and St. Lawrence Island, northwest 15 for the Pribilofs, and Norton Sound, northeast at 10. North 15 for the Norton Sound on Monday, and then 20 knot northerlies for St. Lawrence Island, northwest 20 along the southwest coast, as well as St. Matthew Island, northwest 15 for the Pribilofs. Beaufort Sea coast, central coast, east at 10 knots, pretty light even on the east side there, northeast at 10, over toward Demarcation Point, though, about Barter Island, those areas, Kaktovik, northwest at 20, and east at 15 from Cape Thompson up to Point Ley, and then from Cape Thompson to Wales, we're looking at winds northeast at 15 knots. And for the outlook on Monday, Wales to Cape Thompson, north winds 15 knots, 3-foot seas, and from Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, west at 15, and then the western Arctic coast, southwest 15. Actually, same for the central coast as well, 3-foot seas there, southeast 20 on the east side, 3-foot seas in the ice-free areas, and east 15 for the far eastern Arctic coast. For tonight, again, a lot of moisture associated with that warm front. The next system just making it onto the map there. So widespread area of rain, increasing winds there, pressing in toward the southeast coast, definitely into the North Gulf Coast, Kodiak Island, chance of snow, areas of the interior. High pressure out west moves a little bit to the east there, kind of getting nudged by that next front pushing the western Aleutians, but both having a weakening effect on each other. And then increasing wind and rain there for the panhandle, especially into the afternoon, increasing snow over the southeast interior, and winter storm warning for the upper Tanana Valley 40-mile country in the line from Delta Junction to Eagle southeastward, looking for 1 to 5 inches of snow, maybe as much as 8 inches, rain and wind for the panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.